Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make this 10 frame Langstroth deep hive using a Porter Cable 4216 12-inch deluxe dovetail combination jig kit. No nails required for assembly, and I just put a little glue on and it holds. Everything's square and good to go. Okay, first thing you need to do is set up your router dovetail jig, and you're going to want to get your workpiece of wood, slide it in, and then loosen these knobs on the front and adjust this brass bushing on both sides to where this line lines up with the back of your workpiece. And I don't know how it looks in the camera, but it is lined up. Once you get that, then you just tighten down on the knobs. Okay. And like I said, mine's set up already. And then you're set. You've got this lever to release your workpiece. And then you've got the same for the backer board. And this one will basically just get put in and left alone. Okay. And so I made myself a little jig here, and I'll try to show it so you can see. Pins second, so we'll cut the pins second. And then I've got my measurements here in case you want to make a 10 frame, 5 frame, or 3 frame. And then the plus is I make them just a little bit wider so that they hold the frame feeder and only take out 1 frame rather than 2. So it leaves them just a little bit of extra space. And so you'll mark the piece outside that you want outside. And the way I judge that is this grain pattern. So this would indicate the inside of the tree, right? You want that on the outside of the box. So I've drawn it here. I don't draw it on every piece. I just write outside. So once you get that laid out, you'll have out, and the same thing. Inside of the box, or inside of the tree, outside of the box. Outside of the tree, inside of the box. And here's my other one. This is for tails. It says cut second. I even wrote the template number or router bit number. 42046 and 42743 PC, 42040 and 43776 PC. Okay, and then here's my measurements for the different sizes: 10 frame, 5 frame, 3 frame. And then this one I left a note: out goes in. That means when you're looking at it, when you're about to cut it, the inside is here on tails. Outside's going to be against the jig. And then this one, out goes out for pins. So you're going to have the outside facing you as you cut. And all of that is on the jig right here. See if you can see. We're looking at this section right here. So cut tails first. Not sure why that matters. I've done pins first before and everything comes out fine. I just have it set up. So here's your dovetail bit number, and remember I wrote that down, and then your jig or template number 42040, and that is the same template, it's just different sides. So this one, 42040, is this. 42046 upside down is that. So you'll flip it later to cut the other side. Now there's also this depth stop thing. So you'll put your router on and bump it up to here. And that's basically saying that your router cuts to the depth of the workpiece, okay? Which is your piece of wood there. So when you have the right piece of wood, that depth is going to be right. Another thing you can do is put your router on top of here and lower the bit to this workpiece so that you can see that it cuts all the way through. Or what I like to do is put a piece up against it like this and draw a line, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay, so once we've got all of this set up, you've got your router bit depth set up, then you're ready for your routers. So what I did was I got two routers, and one I wrote pins on it, 42046 and 43743 PC. The other one I've got says Tells 42040 and 43776 PC. So I don't have to reset up my routers each time, and that makes it really nice. And the router that I'm using is the model 1001 T2, upside down, I'm sorry, for both of them. Okay, the next thing you want to do is adjust this little stopper here. And so there's a little screw there, and it comes with a tool. You can loosen that, and you basically want to set up your workpiece to where the material left over here is the same as the material left over here. Now you can see there's a little bit of tear out there, but don't worry about that. We're looking at the other part. Okay. Now one more thing I want to point out. I've got this so that the pins, when I cut the pins, which this is the small end of the box, the 16 1/4 wide, I don't cut, and you'll see in a little bit when I have it set up, but I don't cut this like this one is. There's a little sliver of wood. Sometimes that gets to be so small it just breaks off. So what I do is I don't cut it. And so on here, I won't cut it. And you'll see that. And that way, this side box is flush all the way to the end. Except this one will have that little messed up spot, but that's not a big deal. And then when I cut this one, it'll basically, I'll route this first dovetail, and then this piece will be just such a small little sliver that I just pop it off, because we're basically making room for this side, which didn't cut it, right? So this side, I only cut this side of the dovetail, which is here. Okay, so one more thing I want to point out is so that later I don't want to have to cut that frame rest, which it's not shown here. Here's basically a template of a frame rest. So the frame rest is going to be this piece here, right? So I don't want a little sliver of wood there. I want to just be able to cut that whole frame rest out. So I don't cut this little sliver. Okay. So on this one, on the pins end, I do the dovetail cut, and it'll leave just a sliver of wood here that I end up just popping off, and you'll see that in a little bit. And then on the tail side, I don't cut that. Don't cut this first one, because all it'll do, and on this one I did, so you can see it, but what it'll do is this will be squared off instead of cut. So I break it off of this pin's end, and I don't cut it on the tail's end, so this corner is nice and square, and then I don't have to worry about that frame rest. I can put it on the router and just cut straight through, and it all works out real good. Okay, so I'm about to cut the first one. This is the 42040 tails, and I'm not going to cut this first slot, because remember, that's the one we want to be square, and I'm not going to cut the last one. Okay, here you can see, this is the one I skipped, and then I went straight into cutting here, here, all the way down, and then I did not do this last one. Now we flip the workpiece, do it again, and we're ready to go. Same thing here. I didn't cut this one, cut all the ones in between. Okay, now we're ready for the second side. Again, I'm placing it to where I'm not cutting the very end. Okay, now we're ready to switch. So I'm gonna back these off. Then I slide the template forward so I don't spin the bushing. Flip it around, slide it back on, push it forward, and then tighten it down. And you want this to be on flat on the scrap piece also. Okay. So now we switch routers. Now I'm using the 42046 router. Okay. So remember when I told you about the grain? Well, this particular one happens to be right on the center. I mean, right on. So this one doesn't matter, but I would mark your piece just so later you can visually tell without having to inspect it closely, so you know which one's out. So I'm gonna put this side in. And tighten it down. Okay, now we're ready to do pins. And on this one, I will cut that outside one because remember we have that little sliver, and I'll show you that. Oops, forgot to plug my router in. So on this now, you can see the little sliver that was left. This is the part that I usually snap off. I just push it in and break. And the other one here, there. So on the other one, remember, we didn't cut that. So you'll have a square piece right there. Now we're ready for the other side. Same thing. And same on here. Snap. And that one had hardly anything. There we have it. One side done. All right, we're all done. Okay, got the garage door shut because the light from the sun was really bad. But as you can see, I've got it just barely put in. Take this camera off. Just barely put in so that I could just kind of test fit. It's looking good. As you can see there, we didn't cut the one and we cut the other. So that's going to be nice and squared. But we still have to cut the frame rest. So that's why I didn't put it together yet. So we'll do that now. Here's my router bit set up. Have this jig showing 3/8 of wood, 3/8 cut into the wood, 625, 5/8 deep. And I just put this up against the router, raise the height, and I'm ready to go. So I've marked these wood, top, out. So you want the out facing you and the top down, because that's the part that's going to get cut. And now we just give it a cut. And it will take just a hair off. One thing you could do is lower it on, or just not worry about it. Okay, now we have both of our ends cut with the frame rests. So now it's time to assemble. I'm just gonna dab a little bit of Titebond 3 wood glue on each of those side dovetails. Then I'm gonna come and just put a little bit on one side of these. It's gonna be a good fit, so no need to do more than that. Line them up as best I can to begin with. And I use a little rubber mallet and tap them into place. Wipe the glue. There's one side. Same for here. And now is where you need to just pay attention. You're going to want to make sure that you have the top of this in line with the other. So see, right now it's upside down. We want to do it this way so that it matches with the frame rest on this side of the board. So same thing here. I'm going to just do a dab of glue on one side here. Line it up as best I can. Tap it into place. wipe the glue. Put it anywhere it looks like it might need. All right. All that's left now is the top, or the, not the top, but the other side. And I'm just going to dab some glue in each one of these dovetail spots. And same as one side of the dovetail on the end piece. All right, once you get that, just line it up on one side as best you can. Get it started about halfway, and then move to the other side. And finish up. And there you have it.